For Energy Research. He's advised President Trump's transition team on energy policy. And we welcome Dan Kinnunen. He is former EPA liaison to the White House and now with the Smoot 2's group. Tom, I will begin with you. This executive order, at least for these, reopens the door. It doesn't necessarily mean that the doors open, they run through, and the pipeline gets built. I would imagine that you see this as a positive, but does it really get him to the finish line?
Well, it's a great first step and a really important signal that the president is serious when he said on the campaign trail that he wants to put America's energy resources back in the game. And this, not only these two specific pipelines, but he also signed orders to say, look, we are going to expedite this process. The federal government is going to be a fair arbiter of the rules here, and we're not going to change the rules of the game midstream like was done in the previous administration. So yeah, these things won't get built tomorrow, but this is a strong signal that the president is going to make good on his promise to get America moving again and move these energy resources around the country.
Dan, you've been at the EPA, and I would imagine that the EPA, which of course wasn't certainly supportive of these pipelines, is now thinking, anybody who was there before, well, there goes that. Is there a path? Is there a path to any kind of agreement between building the pipeline and satisfying some of the concerns that certain people had? For example, with the Dakota access pipeline, we saw those protests at Standing Rock with the Sioux groups, the Sioux Indians. Tell me right now, do you see any sort of coming together of these two adversaries?
I don't think this pipeline, particularly Keystone, is going to get built, Liz. I think a couple problems they have. One is that Nebraska has a massive role in the process, and there's been a block on the eminent domain taking in that state for some time. My understanding is that TransCanada can't even apply for new eminent domain authority until September of this year, and then you have another 2-year process with state review, legal fights, etc. To say nothing of the fact that economically this project has always been pretty specious. The price of oil is such that it's hard to make the economics work for this pipeline, and I think ultimately those factors will mean that TransCanada isn't going to be interested in reapplying with a bunch of conditions that can't be met. But more to the point, this is a bad deal for the United States of America. I mean, I heard Tom talk about U.S. energy interests. These are Canadian oil fields, a Canadian company.
Well, let me jump in there.
The holder of a pipeline.
Tom, what about that? There has been that concern that, yes, there would be original jobs in the U.S. to build it, but once it's built, and by the way, one of the executive orders that President Trump had issued was that it must be built with U.S. pipe. I don't know the cost comparisons, but would TransCanada look at that and say, you know, I can get this pipe a lot cheaper elsewhere, but if I'm forced to use U.S. pipe, maybe it does not become cost competitive?
Well, I mean, that'll really be up to TransCanada to decide, and that's the important thing here. What we've had over the past 8 years, the administration has said no, no, no to these types of projects. They talked about infrastructure, but apparently for them that did not include the infrastructure that moves these vital resources around the country. We have a strong ally in Canada. Our partnership extends in the energy space. We are going to be able to allow these companies to work with the federal government to make those decisions, and most important, as I said, not have the process be yanked out from underneath them halfway through the game. That's the most important thing here. It's a rule of law thing, in my opinion.
Dan, we got about 20 seconds here. You didn't bring up the drinking water. I thought you would, and I only bring that up.
I was about to say, Liz, and Tom said these are energy resources going, to our country. They're going through our country. We would have this pipeline sitting on top of the biggest aquifer in the country. This kind of oil is more solid than liquid. It sinks.
But if they can find a workaround, would it be acceptable?
These pipelines spill a couple hundred times a year. These pipelines spill. There's no stopping that. We would take a temporary small gain in a few jobs and trade that against a foreign company's profits and all the risk for us. We'd be the Ukraine in this situation, where we're the place the pipelines run through. They get produced in Canada, they get shipped off from the Gulf, and we get left with the baggage. That is not a good deal for us. It's not putting America first.
For now, whatever baggage there is, Donald Trump is shoving it aside and saying we start the process again. We'll have you both back as we watch this process continue. Thanks both to Tom and Dan. We really appreciate it. As we look at the Dow Jones Industrials, I need to tell you we're up about 138 points, but I'm keeping my eye on